Welcome to our Devos, and this week we're examining finding purpose. Not finding purpose like looking for what the meaning and purpose is of my life, no. But realizing that God's purpose is baked into all of the different elements of our lives that we tend to question. Specifically today, I want to examine something from a parenting standpoint. You know, candidly, I will tell you that I've learned more about God being a father than I did before I became a father. Now, I'm not saying you can't know about God if you don't have children or if you don't desire children. I'm not saying any of that. But I'm saying that the truths that I knew of God before I became a dad became a lot more vivid and more understandable after I became a dad. So here's something that's interesting with my kids. I have 3 kids. And my kids, when we are together, occasionally, and when it happens, it's fun, and they know, because when I'm into this, I'm into this. I'll pick them up, and they know that we're not going home. And sometimes I just do that. And I'm not as planned. My wife is planned. She wants to go here. She wants to do this. She wants to do that. I will pick the kids up from school and have the baby there, and I'll say, okay, we're going to go do something. And they know that I don't really know what we're going to do. But what they do know, they know that I'm going to make a plan. So they know that we might go out for pizza, or they know that we might go to movies, or maybe I'll take them swimming or something. And they don't care what it is. They don't. Now, of course, if I open it up for a consensus, like, oh, what do you want to do? Which is the dumbest thing you could ever do as a parent. That's free parenting advice. You know, do you want to eat at this restaurant, or do you want to eat at that restaurant? Do you want to get this kind of pizza, or do you want to get this kind of pizza? It's going to turn into a fight, and you're going to lose. So just don't do that. So what I realized is when I'm driving with my kids and they're excited, they trust me. And they know that whatever my plan is, it's going to be good. And they're okay with it. And they also know that the plan is mine. It's something that I'm doing. Now, where does this come into our purpose? Well, here's something about God's purposes. They are His. Now, I want you to step back for a minute, pull yourself out of your life. If you really, really believe, if you truly, truly believe that we were created for God's pleasure, that God created us to give Him glory, then He has an agenda that maximizes the glory to His name. Now, this is going to require you to think selflessly. That means that you have to look past your own desires and recognize that He has plans and purpose in mind that don't necessarily have to do with us in terms of how we think things ought to be. Okay, let me put it to you a better way. This life is not about us. It's not. God allows us to take part in His story, but we are not the center of the story. We are all characters on a stage that belongs to Him in terms of what He wants to do in this world until Jesus returns, establishes His earthly kingdom, His heavenly kingdom on earth, I should say, and then we are permanently united with Him. It's in understanding that we can recognize something amazing, that God's purposes are His. That it's irrespective of what I am expecting God to do. That God is in charge. And what that means is this. If He's good, which He is, if He loves me, which He does, if He is capable of doing things that I myself couldn't do, which He is, that means I can trust Him with those purposes. I can trust Him with the plans. I can believe Him for the best because as His child, He is trustable. He is faithful. He is able to allow me as His child to jump on board with Him, and wherever He takes me, I'm going to go because I know that as long as He's in the car, it's going to be great. Now, that was a long-winded way to say that God's purposes are His. In Isaiah chapter 46, verses 9 through 10, listen to how He speaks of Himself. Remember the former things of old, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times things not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand and I will accomplish all of my purposes. Now, if you feel uncomfortable with the idea that God has a plan and He's not necessarily going to consult you about His plan, then what that says is you're not trusting Him enough, or you don't know Him well enough. Like, my kids trust me and my plan because of their relationship to me. So my question is this: how much closer do you have to get to God in order to trust him with all the plans of your life? I mean, you trust him with your eternity. You're like, oh, I trust him with what's going to happen after I die. But how about what's going to happen while you're alive? How's that going for you? Have you trusted him enough to let go of your plans and give it over to him in that area? Have you trusted him enough to act in obedience in terms of giving, in terms of serving, in terms of relational connection? Do you trust him enough to say, okay, this is about him. I'm doing it because this is about him. This isn't my life. It's a life that I've been given to manage for him, for his honor, for his glory, and for the betterment of the story that he's trying to tell in my life. I trust him enough to know that as long as he's in charge, it's going to be okay. As long as I'm in the car with him, I don't care where he goes. I trust him. And I want you to trust him too.